All right, let's talk about Tensor and DMC.micro. Before we start, I want to make sure that the dip switches inside the micro are set correctly. So in order to use this with an expression pedal, we need to make sure that they're set to on, so all up. If they're not set to all up, get a small pointy object like a small screwdriver or a biro, not the like a retractable ballpoint pen, not the one with a cap. Just something small and pointy that you can use to flip them up. A fingernail usually works too. Okay, so before we get started in depth, I want to factory reset this. That way we're starting from scratch and you can see how everything goes. So plug this in to your 9-volt power supply, and then while the display is scrolling, hold both foot switches. And you'll see RSET, reset. It's going to count down. It's zeroing out all the presets, and when it gets to 0, it's going to flash, and then it'll be factory reset. So we're going to unplug this and plug it back in order to do the setup. So when the display is scrolling, hold the left foot switch to enter setup. When you see setup on the display, let go. Okay, so we're going to go in and look at a few of these things here, but we're not going to mess with them. So here's our preset channel. Leave all that alone. So dev. We want to set this to dev A, which it should be by default. And then we're going to go to dev A, and we're going to set that to tensor. So you go to the left a few times here. So ISC4 particle 2 tensor. So there's tensor. And then we're going to go forward here. Looper, we're going to turn looper off, which it is. We're going to make sure util is set to off. And we're going to skip everything that starts with the letter U, all the util stuff. And then when we get to jack, this should be set for expression by default. So it's going to look like E, and then an upside down A, and then a P. That's the X. Don't ask me why it's the X. I don't know. Okay, and then finally, we're going to get over here to USB, and we're going to set that to host. So USB host. And now we'll hold the right button to save. So now that we're saved, we can power off and power back on, and that will initialize the USB host. Next, we're going to take our tensor, and I haven't reset this or anything. It's just how it came from Kurt and those guys. So I have a USB cable here. This is shorty, right angle shorty. So I'm going to plug this in here, the cable end in here, and then I'm going to plug the other end of the cable into my ghost adapter dongle, which is this guy, and then I'm going to plug that into the DMC. Now, the way we're going to test this is we're going to hold the right button to go to the A mode. So now we're on the A mode. And then we're going to hold the left button, and you'll see the red LED turn off here, and the tensor should follow along. This is your clue that the tensor is working correctly. So the way that you save presets on this thing is you turn the knob here. So let me just move to a preset location. So we're in preset 3. So we're going to edit and save preset 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this knob just to give some visual indication here. So that this is teal. It's a little hard to see on the camera, but this is the sort of the violet, and then the blue, and then the teal. So it's the lighter color. And hold both foot switches, and then go to the next preset. You'll see this turns green for a moment. So here, and you can see it's really hard to see on camera, but it blinks green briefly, and then it goes to the new preset. If we turn it off, it just blinks green here. If I turn it off, it just blinks green without lighting up. So this is bypassed. Okay, so you asked about expression pedal. Same thing. So first of all, we need a TRS expression pedal. So this is a Moog EP3, and then this is a the minimum volume here, minimum level. So you may have to experiment with your pedal to see what. Let me turn the brightness down here. You may have to experiment with your pedal to see, but when you plug this in, you should see on the display E120. So if this is changing, then the tensor should be working. Right? I don't have the tensor hooked up right now to audio, so I can't really hear what it's doing, and I'm not a tensor expert, but if you see this part working and you see this part working, then the tensor is probably working. So you may have to read through the manual and figure out how to set the expression parameters on the tensor. Again, I'm not a tensor expert, so I don't know the answers to all these things. But if this is working and you see this is working, then that means MIDI is going through here and MIDI is going through here. So you should be in good shape. Let me know if that helps. Send me an email. Thanks.